Hello there again. This is episode 9 of the Post Concussion Syndrome Awareness podcast. My name's David. Joining us today is Lori Kampa Kearney. I think I pronounced that right, from Minnesota in USA. She's going to talk to us and have a conversation about what she's been up to, her struggles and trials and journey through PCS as well, and what inspired her to make changes in lifestyle and then to go on to help other people as well. So without further ado, here we go. Okay, so hi Lori, how are you today?
Hello.
Great. So Lori's joining us from the cold north of the United States, Minnesota, I believe. We've already established it's probably even colder than it is here in the north of England. Yeah, probably. Today Lori wants to talk to us about brain health mainly and good habits, dietary habits and things like that. So first of all, Lori, could you start off and tell us a little bit of background about yourself, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a certified integrative health coach, and I also have had a traumatic brain injury and diagnosed with Post Concussion Syndrome. So I am uniquely qualified to be here today. So I had my accident in 2012 on a biking outing on Father's Day, and it was a sunny day to start off with, and then it started to rain. And the kids and my husband at the time went ahead. We were at a bike shop, and I said, go ahead because it's raining, and I have to just get something fixed on my brand new bike. And I left the parking lot, and I was going a little bit faster than I should, and then it was slippery with the rain, and a car pulled out in front of me. And so thankfully I had a helmet on because I went straight up and then went straight down on the parking lot with my head being the first point of contact.
Ouch.
And then my body just slammed down to the ground.
Oh dear.
So I didn't realize at the time, but at that moment, June 17, 2012, my life completely changed. And I now look back at this time as a tragic gift because I went through a lot of heartache, but now I'm on the other side and I see the beauty of everything that I've experienced. But I had a lot of injuries on my body, but they all healed, but I had a traumatic brain injury. They said you had a massive concussion, and I was not feeling myself. And I think a lot of people that are listening today probably can understand when you just don't feel like yourself, right?
Gosh, yeah. Like we were talking yesterday about disassociation, where you feel like you're an alien plunked on this planet, and it's like, whose life is this?
Yes, like somebody took over my brain and was like, what is happening? And I was generally an optimistic, happy, full of energy person, and I had a lot of fatigue. I had level 10 headaches almost every single day. I felt a lot of anxiety, felt extremely negative. I think my thoughts were about 99% negative, lots of depression.
The early days are tough, aren't they?
Yeah, it's just in poor judgment. I just was not making the best decisions. I was telling work, sure, I'll be going to Chicago next week. I mean, things that I look back and I thought, why would I even think that I would be able to do something like that? And it's hard because after my neck healed and the stitches, and so I didn't have the neck brace on or anything going on, I looked fine on the outside, and so people are like, oh, I'm so happy that you feel better. And it's like, well, actually this is an invisible illness. I don't feel good. I don't, but I looked good on the outside. And so it was very hard because I had 2 daughters in grade school, and had some stress at home with the marriage that I was in. So I didn't always have that time that I needed to really heal the brain. So when after about 2.5 years, I went through treatment at Hennepin County Medical Center, the Traumatic Brain Injury Clinic.
Okay.
My doctor said, we're either going to take you to Mayo Clinic in Rochester or HCMC.
Oh,
And so
yeah,
this
yeah.
is the top clinic in the Midwest that people come from all over.
Yeah, I've
And
heard
I
of
did
those.
occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy. I've tried all different kinds of medication. And I kept putting the power into other people. Like, okay, what are you going to do to heal me? And I wanted that quick fix that I was used to,
Yes.
something to get my life back. I just wanted my old life back. And then they finally said to me one day, like, Lori, this is as good as it's going to get. We can't do anything more for you. And I tried a medication that gave me some relief from my headaches. And she said, it's really damaging your liver, so we can't have you on it. And I said, no, that's okay. I'll stay on it because it's giving me some relief. And she said,
I see.
you don't understand. Like, you will die if you stay on this. And I said,
Oh,
yeah,
dear.
you don't understand. I'm okay with that. I would rather live a smaller life without as much pain and anxiety, depression.
Yeah.
And it was really a low part in my life that I really was not feeling grateful for my family. I just felt I had this pity party going on.
Oh,
and
yeah. Yeah.
didn't see
We've
a
all had
future.
those.
I just really was like, this is the worst, right?
Well, that's it, yeah. A pity party, come alone, don't bring a friend.
Yeah, that I really didn't want to live anymore. And finally, I thought I have two decisions here. So I decided I want to try to heal myself. And I worked with a health coach. And through that process, she helped me look at what I was eating, look at my habits. And through that whole process, I was able then to heal myself. And now I am so privileged that I'm able to help other people heal. So when I look back, I truly believe that this was a blessing in my life, that I was supposed to go through all of that crap, that really awful time in my life,
so
to get me to where I am today, to help inspire and let other people know. Because I thought, why didn't I know this? Like, it should be so simple.
It should be so simple as well. But what you've just described as well, it's such a common experience, and through the alienation, isolation, and then just feeling that you just need something to kind of kill the pain, no matter what.
Yes.
But as well as all of that, you come to that point at which I did. I think I remember the early days of you kind of coming and finding our group, and I had read your story before, so thank you for reminding me. But in those early days, you kind of lose all perspective of how you fit into the world. And it's like, not only that, but you're dealing with all these symptoms, around up to 40 odd symptoms in the syndrome. But then you're also dealing with the grief of what you inevitably are going to lose. With me, it was my job, my home, and kind of like friendships and things and all kinds of stuff. And in the end, when you get through it all, you realize, oh my God, I'm a survivor. I'm like a warrior or warrioress, kind of fought through this, been out and just kind of had nothing and try to get back. But through that, very importantly, as you say, is well, actually, now it's seen as a blessing in disguise. And there is no way that we would be here talking or would have done anything in these groups for the last 10 years, 11 years, if that hadn't happened to me. I would be somewhere else, just kind of blissfully, obliviously kind of going on with a different life, not worrying about helping anybody or any, kind of, well, I might have done, but you know what I mean, not anybody with brain injury anyhow.
Yeah. Well, and I'm so grateful to your Facebook group and everything you've done, David, because
it's an absolute joy.
That was
it's fun.
Those were the first times that I heard about holistic healing.
Oh, yeah.
From that Facebook group.
I'm a nutter on that. So.
Yes, and at first I thought, no, I'm at the best clinic around. They're going to find something to heal me. And then it always came back. Every time I would go on that Facebook group, it always came back to what really does work is when we change our lifestyle, when we change what we eat, when we reduce that stress.
Yes.
There's a lot in our control that we can do to help us heal.
Yeah, it's the basics that we've we've forgotten over these last few decades, and what our maybe parents and grandparents and their parents and so on knew about nature and healing and things as well. But in this modern age, we've become so kind of bound up in technology that we've forgotten to teach our children and the most basic skills and the most basic things about life, because they're kind of like hypnotized by iPads and satellite TV and all this internet and stuff. And so, you kind of forget yourself. We've got like a collective amnesia going on regarding healing. And like we were saying yesterday, we're ready now for this new paradigm of healing. We're ready for it, There is a place for allopathy, drug medicine and so on in it, but it's exclusively not just that to help people heal. Because, there's energy healing, there's sound healing, there's this chap in Britain now, a scientist who's found a way to magnetize viruses and illness in the blood and pull them out with a magnet. So there's all kinds of ways. So
it's still amazing what is out there, the opportunities for us to heal, and I liked what you said about grief, because I was so focused on getting my old life back,
never gonna
and
happen.
I had to accept that things were going to be different, and that's okay. It's okay that things are going to be different, and that I was going to carve out this new life. And then I got excited, and I thought, wow, I can actually create the life that I want. I am going to do things differently, so I'm going to create that. I have that power to do that. But I had to, say goodbye to my old job that they kept holding for me. I had to say goodbye to being that super mom, doing all the activities and really paring down and finding my new normal, my new
the new you, where to start,
where
to start the next chapter.
The next absolutely, the next chapter. And I shouldn't even say the word normal, because I don't think there is really such a thing as normal anymore.
No, that's a word that people use to beat other people, kind of submissively or passively, to say, "Oh, you're not normal," or "This isn't normal." Right. But there is no bloody normal. If somebody says to me, I take it as an insult. Because I'm proud to be kind of weird and different and have different opinions and different views. And you know what? I do get criticism, and I've got all over the last 10 years. You would not believe the attacks and criticism we've kind of had and got in private from people that have just been like, well, you shouldn't be saying this, you shouldn't be saying that. You simply would not believe it. So I think it's obviously a good sign that you're doing something right by speaking your truth. Because if people are attacking you like that, and then
I was looking at my dryer the other day, and I thought, boy, there's not even a normal setting anymore on the dryer.
No, dryer shouldn't be normal.
Not out there. But I think about, that I like to fit out. That it's okay to have views that are unlike most people in America. Most people here eat the standard American diet, which is acronym is STAD. And that's how I used to eat. And so when we go to places, a lot of times I am different from everybody else, and that's okay. Everybody has a different way of living, and we just have to respect each other. But for people who are ready to make a change and would like to have relief from their TBI symptoms, or even for anyone who is just aging, right? We want to supercharge our brain and be the best that we can be. So these healthy tips that we're going to talk about today can relate to anybody that wants to increase their brain power and work on their brain health.
Yeah, and we had this conversation yesterday about neurogenesis and about ways to kind of help the brain to build new pathways, and nature and food is always, in my opinion, the best solution. There might be all these flashy new nootropic drugs and things where you get stacks of different stuff that are meant to kind of boost brain concentration and that, but not all of them are entirely natural, so I'm not too sure about that. But right, so could you begin then to start to tell us? I had a little read through your handout, and I was kind of licking my lips, looking at the types of food you recommended, thinking,
I know they're all good ones.
That's good, yeah.
Well, and I love what you just said about growing the brain cells, because a lot of people think that we are not able to grow new brain cells as adults.
Yeah,
but that is a myth. The brain does not stop growing.
No, it's been disproven.
So it really depends on our lifestyle and what we put into our bodies or what we don't put into our bodies.
Yes.
But our brain absolutely has the capacity to regenerate and to grow throughout our entire lifetime.
Yes.
And so I think it's really exciting. And when I read this research, and I'm all about brain research, for if you are just aging or if you've had an injury to your brain or you've had an illness, brain cancer, a tumor, anything, that we actually can adapt and grow these new cells. So
you
probably,
can,
our brain's memory center is called the hippocampus. And
That's
so
right.
it is actually, adaptable. It's capable of growing these new cells. We just always have to have that lifestyle to support it. But all, cells need these nutrients to grow. So my first tip is just, to eat for your brain. So it's a wonderful thing when we can have food that actually nourishes our body. And we're going to have a second podcast that's just going to go in detail about all my top 15 brain boosting foods because it is so detailed. But the bottom line is that whenever I look at a food, I put in my hand first hand. I'm like, is this food going to help make me feel better? Or is it going to make me feel worse? So for breakfast, I used to have a Diet Coke and a bagel, and now I have a green smoothie.
Lori,
No. And so it's a big difference on how I feel, and we have to be aware and listen to our bodies. I just want to share one study real quick with you that I just was so fascinated by, and it's a little disturbing, but UCLA did this research with rats. And the sad part that I always get disturbed about is that they gave every single rat a traumatic brain injury, a TBI. And then they separated these rats into two different groups. And in one group, they gave the rats a healthy diet and lots of good water. And the other group, they gave them a high fructose diet. So that's that high sugar diet. That's that standard American diet. So at the end of 3 weeks, the rats on the high sugar diet were more confused, and they had decreased cognitive memory. And the one that ate healthy and had the water were back to the base level after 3 weeks. And so when I read this, I thought, oh my gosh, if I would have just known when this first happened. To really nourish my brain. I'd never even thought about that. Food can change how we heal.
Yeah, for sure. Sugar's just pushed on people, though. Although over here we've got the sugar tax now, and that's even more dangerous because they were saying, the government, when our government starts talking up that something's wrong or dangerous, then you know that there's an agenda. So they were going like, we're going to have the sugar tax where, like if you buy sugar drinks and sweets, all the tax will be put on them to help go to the healthcare system. So now everything, if you go into supermarkets here, every type of, you can't get a soft drink or anything that's got just sugar in it. It's basically like aspartame, phenylalanine, and sucralose, which is extremely dangerous and carcinogenic. Because that sucralose has got 3 chlorine molecules in it. You can use it to clean your pool, Lori.
Yeah, well, and like Splenda was invented by a pesticide company.
Yeah, and they keep changing the name.
So I was thinking about, I was having like 3 Diet Cokes a day, and all of those artificial sweeteners that were going to my brain. I mean, nobody should have any artificial sweeteners in their body. No. So it's really important that we are eating foods and drinking the right foods that have, the good kind of fats, high in antioxidants, limit that caffeine and alcohol and processed foods. So in the next podcast, we're going to go really in detail about all of my top 15 brain boosting foods.
Fantastic.
And I just want to share too that I don't always think that education is transformation. And so I encourage everyone listening to bring out a notebook, to take notes throughout this workshop. And think about, as we're talking about these brain boosting habits today, maybe put a star or a circle around the ones that you think that you could put into your life today. Because that's where the real improvement happens, is by taking what you learn and putting it into action. And I always like to suggest taking like something easy first. So something that maybe you're like, I've done that before. I could do that again. And then you're patting yourself on the back the next week, like, I'm so great, I did this. And then you go to the next step.
Yeah,
and the next step.
Yeah, that's good advice. Yeah, don't try and make wholesale changes all at once.
Yeah.
It's too hard.
So you can kind of get one habit after the other. But I just want to let you know, I do every single one of these tips, these habits, because for me to live a successful life, I run 2 small businesses now. I need to have my brain at top capacity, right?
Yes,
I need to have that energy and that focus. And so for me to live a good life, I still have to manage my traumatic brain injury, the Post Concussion Syndrome.
Yes,
So when I'm on my computer too much, or if I'm not getting that self-care, I absolutely get headaches. I absolutely can go on a downward spiral to depression. So I have to be aware and be very intentional about how I live my life. And it is such an important part of my life. And I think that most people who have had an injury, they are so motivated to make themselves feel better that they are really good about adding these to our diet, to our way of living. Where somebody else might be like, well, I have a healthy brain already, and they may have cognitive decline from aging later on in life, whereas we can be intentional now. So don't wait till you have an injury or anything.
Oh, no. And the main thing that I like to tell to people is, well, use preventative medicine naturally, but use food as preventative medicine as well. And everybody that's emerging in this new paradigm of healing, if you look at like Ty Bollinger and there's like Truth About Cancer, Truth About Vaccines, he talks about like eating, obviously as you will do, is talking about eating the rainbow, all the different colours of vegetables and things, all the different stuff in there, because all nature's put it all there for your brain to be boosted as well as your body too.
We need to go back to the way we used to eat, like our great-grandparents,
I guess so,
right?
Yeah, definitely, because the age of processed food has really killed health. But at the same time that the age of kind of processed food became readily available, all of a sudden the drug companies became more powerful and the healthcare system kind of like got overworked. So there's definitely a correlation there, but the people from the drug industries don't talk to the people in the food industry, and they don't kind of get together. Or maybe that's something to do with lobbying in Washington or Westminster or wherever, where there's not meant to be a correlation, because it seems to massive.
You know?
Yeah. Well, we don't want to get into that right now. We could be here all night.
And it's hard in the United States. It's allowed for prescription companies to do commercials and ads, and so we're constantly getting this. If you feel this, get this drug, and so we're in that mentality of having that quick fix, where really it needs to come back to your lifestyle, because that's just putting a Band-Aid on something. Where when we holistically change, we're getting to the cause. We're actually healing the inflammation on the brain. We're healing, we're creating new neural pathways in our brain so that we can continue to have this and not just be dependent on a prescription that is just maybe covering up a symptom instead of getting right to the root cause of it.
Yeah, it's a sticky plaster, like you say. You know, like you can keep for years. I know people for years have gone on like one plaster, another. It's like, you know, if you keep wallpapering the same wall with different wallpaper every couple of years, it's all still there underneath. It's just you've got a lot more to strip off to get to kind of repair the wall if something's wrong. And it amazes me that we've got, like I said before, we've got into, and pardon the pun, literally kind of amnesia over health and healing and food as well. And people don't see the connection between food and nature and healing, and even sometimes with the brain and the body as well, because it's so far removed. If you go to a hospital or you go to see a neurologist or whatever, there's no reference to nature. There's no reference. There's very rarely reference to food and diet.
Absolutely.
You know,
and that's what I
it's
feel.
Crazy. It's like the missing link.
Yeah, I feel such passion that God put me in this position to be the voice to help other people heal. That suffering is optional, because there is this missing link in the medical professionals that they want people to heal. The doctors, the nurses, they want people to heal.
Yeah, bless
but
you.
But they're missing the link on the holistic method, the lifestyle, and the food. I remember being in my kitchen, and after making a smoothie, and all of a sudden, my headache was lower, and I just thought, oh my goodness, this is so impactful. And I just could not believe why I didn't know this. And I thought, I have to go back to school. I have to learn more about nutrition and lifestyle. So I went to the Institute of Integrated Nutrition to get more informed to tell other people. But I thought, here I am with a brain injury, signing up to go to a year-long school that's like a medical school. I'm like, oh my goodness, can I do this?
Yeah, go for it.
But the more I did it and kept up with these holistic methods, the more my memory got better, and the more my concentration got better. And so it was, I felt like I probably had to give more hours to it than most people. But I just kept plugging along and adding in more and more of what I was learning. I was like the experiment, basically, on myself.
Yeah, well, that's what you need to be to yourself when you've gone through that. When you realise, when you get through the grief period, and then you're like, well, hang on a minute, the old self and old life isn't coming back. Where do I go now? And then you really have to knuckle down. So, at what point, Lori, did you then find that you had more purpose to go forward and actually organise and create something to help other people?
Yeah, I went back to school. I graduated in 2016, and so that is exactly when I decided, okay, I'm going to write some workshops on brain health, and so that's why today I'm going to share with you, more healthy habits, and then another podcast on food. But I have now written over 25 workshops on, about positive thinking and the healing powers of gratitude, and about kicking the sugar habit, and there's so much to learn about really being healthy, mind, body, and soul, and nourishing all parts of us.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've talked about this a few times in the podcast. Was one of the main things that I found through all the experiences from like 2006, even to this year when I had another concussion about, I think, May time. The one thing, despite the fact that I worked out a way to recover from concussion within a week or two, just really almost foolproof. But the main thing that's always stuck in my mind is you have to believe you are going to recover. You have to believe your brain is going to heal. You have to believe you're going to get better as to the best of its capability. You're never going to be your old self, and that is part of the acceptance. So grief and belief are two things there that are kind of parallel almost. You have the grief, you will have the grief, but you also have to, no matter how much you affirm it to yourself, you have to believe that somehow, even if you don't know how, you're going to get better. And that sounds kind of like what you were doing as well.
Yes, and I'm so glad you brought that up, David, because for anybody who's listening who has had any injury to your brain, you absolutely 100% with all my belief can heal.
Yes.
You can do it. And I forgot to share, I just didn't share that, with my biking accident, about 3.5 months later, I was ready to go back to work, or I thought I was.
Yeah.
And then I was in a car accident the day before I was supposed to go back to work.
No.
And so it set me back even further than where I first started. And so sometimes you do have things that will keep coming up and kicking you basically like in the head again, over and over again, saying like you're going to knock down. And this is where we need to go down and have that resilience and that courage to keep moving forward despite all of the things that are going to come in front of us. I didn't have an easy path. I went through a divorce through all this. I bought a new house. I mean, I've done some really challenging things that even without a brain injury would have been difficult.
Stressful as well.
That we just need to keep persevering and just think about moving forward and having patience and self-compassion for ourselves.
Yeah, and I was going to ask before, did you sustain a concussion then, or did you have further concussions, or was that just...
Yeah, it was another concussion.
So is that 2 in total?
2 in total, yeah. And I most likely, when I look back into my life, I was a cheerleader in high school and college, and there was a few accidents that I had that I landed on my head, and I had headaches for weeks on end. And knowing more of the symptoms of concussions, I most likely sustained 2 concussions, one in high school and one in college, during that time, but I didn't really pinpoint it. And as we all know, some people get concussions and you can heal quickly, and others do not. And then, like you and I, David, get diagnosed with Post Concussion Syndrome.
Well, yeah, it's a really weird thing, because I was thinking about this just again today, and as you were talking, saying, well, in my earlier life, I'd had concussions. I'm nearly 6'3" tall, so yeah, it's bound to happen. So yeah, it's just like constantly. I had a few instances where I really whacked my head, but never ever, all that time growing up, never ever had a problem. And it's only when I got to, like, I think my first one was when it was like 32, 33, something like that, that I had like 2 in the space of 10 minutes, and that's only when that went on to become, and I think some of it in the recent science is there's biomarkers in the early stage of a mild traumatic brain injury, axonal damage in the brain. Sometimes the brain is flooded with calcium, and it can lead to kind of like distended brain cells and things. But there's usually, if you're just concussed, there's not enough technology or the right kind of scanners, like DTI scanners, available to check to see what's actually gone on. And then in that first 1, 2, 3 months, you probably most people don't get a scan, whereas you should have it straight away. But it seems that, we're just lagging behind still in that area.
Yeah, my favorite doctor and researcher is Dr. Daniel Amen, and he's done thousands of brain scans, and he is the one that really talks about the National Football League, the NFL, and about the multiple concussions and what that creates in our life. And so I think, one thing, like for you and I, and a lot of other people, we've had multiple concussions in our life. And so the more we have, the chances of it being more severe are greater as well. So for myself, I choose not to water ski or downhill ski anymore.
No, me neither.
Just because of the fact that I don't want to sustain another brain injury, another concussion.
I don't go in their eyes.
What it could do for me. I still go, hiking, I do a lot of fun things, but I just limit some of those that are more dangerous. It's okay. I'm 48 years old.
Sensible.
I'm still very active in my life, but I'm okay. I'm okay without doing those kinds of things. Well, but one of the habits that is important when we're healing is regular exercise.
Oh yeah.
That really does help, literally jog our memory. But movement is a major key in the brain boosting process to occur. And so what research has said is when we exercise our body and we move, it improves our attention and our perception, our motivation, our memory, our decision-making skills. It regulates our moods. I know I used to be all up and down with my moods. It provides more mental clarity, and it really promotes that brain cell repair and improved learning and focus. So it's pretty amazing. The Journal of Neurology, they did a study that says, if we just exercise every day, our brain can slow down the aging process by about 10 years. Yeah,
I believe I firmly believe in that too. When I was injured, and I think within a year, just over a year, the first 2 injuries in one day, I had another one, and that really messed my face up as well. It was the front of the head, and even still at that time, I couldn't. Before that, I used to enjoy going running and kind of physical exercise. But
Yeah.
I did a lot of walking. And walking through where I live in Yorkshire here is really beautiful. I live in a city, but around we've got like so many, there's like valleys and moors and things. So I could go walking like half a day and still, kind of have a bit of energy left as well. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that really helped to save me as well. That and meditation. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's got to be
Absolutely.
ways to cope with it. And
Yeah.
yeah, and going back again to the like the Dr. Amen and other Michael A. McCrea, Mickey Collins, Leddy, all the others. But I think there's one person who is on Facebook, and I don't know if you're friends with him as well. Is John DeVitt, Dr. John DeVitt, and he was in the
Mm,
NFL. He was an NFL player, I believe,
mhm.
from what I know about him. So it might be good if we can kind of rope him into an interview or something. I don't know
Yeah.
how. I
Yeah.
might tap him up later and say, well, come on, give us a hand
Yeah.
out. He seems like a lovely guy, and he's got a lovely family. So, but yeah, it's good that we're kind of all on same page in a way.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Like, walking is one of the healthiest things for
Yeah.
our brain, and it's almost like a walking meditation when you're in
Oh
woods. You
yeah,
don't have your
yeah.
headphones with you. You're just in nature. You're noticing things. You're being mindful. And when we're just in that present moment, being mindful, that helps train the brain to not be in the future, which is anxiety, to go in the past, which is depression. But you're just
That's right. Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so exercise absolutely like promotes brain health because it's releasing hormones from our muscles, and that encourages the growth of new cells.
Yeah.
Now, I have an issue with my heart rate
Okay.
since my brain injury, and so for me, I can't do really fast. Like running would not be a good activity for me. I'm always
No.
checking to make sure
Okay.
that my heart rate's under 125. I used to only be able to go up to about 115 and I would get headaches. So you might just want to see, like, how do you feel after you exercise when you're doing things? Yoga has been life-changing for me. When I did my first yoga class, I could only do half of a class. And I cried a lot through it. I would go into forward fold, and I'm like, what is happening to me? And the teacher at the time was like, you just have had so much trauma. It's trapped in your body.
Yeah, body's
So
releasing it. Yeah.
I was releasing all this trauma from me, and I was doing all these heart openers and just becoming one with my body. And I was so passionate about yoga that I now have been teaching yoga. So I just think that everyone should practice some type of yoga because it helps with us focusing on our breath. And then the movements can be slow, and there's so many different types of yoga. And so I suggest starting out with a restorative yoga or a yin yoga, something that we're not moving that quickly. And there's so many great, good yoga channels on YouTube that you can do it for free.
Yeah.
And like gardening or light bicycling or swimming, those are all good activities that aren't going to be high impact. I used to take like hip hop dancing and more things like that, which I've tried again and I can do it, but I still will get a headache because the music is so loud and it's such big steps on the ground.
Yeah.
So it's just learning to listen to your body to see what exercise is best for you. But you probably have heard, sitting is now known as the new smoking, that we're all sitting too much. And so it's more about, every hour on the hour, if you are sitting a lot, just getting up and doing some stretches throughout the day to help release those hormones from our muscles. So we have that neurogenesis, that neuroplasticity of the brain. But yeah, and you talked about, meditation, and that's also one of those healthy habits. It literally, like brain scans show it, literally can change your brain.
That's right, yeah.
Which changes the quality of our life. So when we engage in a behavior over and over and over again, our neurons then can change how they talk to each other.
Yeah.
So we are rebuilding that gray matter. So if you just for like 8 weeks, 30 minutes a day, I mean, the studies show after 8 weeks, there is a substantial difference of gray matter in the brain. And so it's about doing it every day, knowing that, thoughts are going to come through as you meditate, and you don't have to judge them. I used to be really like, I can't do this, I'm frustrated.
No, that's not the way as well.
It's okay.
No, I've been meditating since I was eight years old. As I said before, my parents took me and my brothers to learn that, and I'm probably the only one of the three of us that kept it up, and it became a major part of my life because it helped me to integrate into a different state of being, different way of consciousness looking at things, particularly through the years that had brain injury, and that was a big part of saving my life as well. And in the years I've gone through it as well, I found that I used to just do sitting meditation and with a mantra or not, but yeah, my way of looking at meditation was people think, you've got to still the mind. No. You need to be like, think about you sat on like what we call a roundabout, or you might call an intersection over there. And you sat and it's nice grassy kind of, flowers, and you've got cars and things, trucks going all around you. The traffic's just going to continue. Your mind is going to keep going. You just sit there and you just accept it and watch it and let it go past. And there's a red one, there's a blue one, there's a truck, there's a bus, and it just is. And that's meditation for me.
That's a great way to describe it.
Life is just like, acceptance of, this person is angry, this person is sad, this person is in trauma, this person is so on, and you have to kind of find a way. And that's not for anybody listening about being disassociated. That's not about being uninterested in life, but it's like the Taoist principle that you when you get yourself right and when you still your own self, then people will automatically come to you for help. They will automatically seek you out. I agree. Be like the fruit tree. Be like the fruit tree that bears fruit, and then people will come and pick it.
Yeah.
You don't get fruit trees knocking on the back door of the supermarket going, "Excuse me, do you want some fruit?"
Right.
Just let them come to you. So that's for me. That's what meditation's become. So walking meditation's great.
Yeah, and when the thoughts do come, and I think too, it's like we have the choice if we want to engage in that thought or not.
Yeah.
And so the more we say, I'm going to let that float away or let that traffic go by, whatever it is in your mind, the more we're going to teach the brain that we're coming back here. And, I've been meditating now for years, but I still have thoughts that come through. So just being patient with yourself, because that is okay. And I love that you can do it anywhere.
Anywhere.
That we don't have to sit in a certain way.
No,
yes, you kind of see the pictures of people, sitting with cross legs. But you can do it laying down in your bed, just be comfortable and just let it flow. Just let it flow through.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of guided meditation that is nice and easy when you first start as well. Deepak Chopra has some free ones on his website, and he has a lot of free 21-day challenges that are happening as well. So give it a try, and just breathing, that's a meditation. Just saying to yourself, I am inhaling, I am exhaling.
Yeah, the rhythm.
Or saying a mantra,
mantras are great. It's because it's yesterday Sanskrit mantras and things, and I think Barry Long was one of my favourites. He was an Australian gentleman, very matter of fact, and he's available on YouTube as well. And for people that might struggle to start to meditate, if they're not kind of into, particularly for some men as well who have more difficulty, his was just very direct, and he'd give you the visualization where you were stood inside a well, and you're pushing out with your arms and legs in the well to kind of keep yourself from falling in, and then he just gets you to let go, and then you're like woof down. So I think that's free on YouTube. Called Start Meditating Now, Barry Long. There's quite a lot of stuff out there now that's all free. And YouTube has got its good side where it's like, well, there's all this stuff that you can just pick up for free.
Yeah, it's really nice. And the app Insight Timer has like 22,000 meditations on it, and they're from all over the world, so in all different languages.
Uh-huh.
And so, under the top 20, I love there's like a 10-minute one that's just a morning meditation, and it has, your intention for the day, gratitude, and deep breathing. And it's a positive way to start the day. There's also sleep meditations. I know for myself, since my brain injury, I've had a little bit harder time sleeping, so having to be doing some relaxing exercises or meditation. Yoga Nidra, Nidra, that's sleep meditation with breath. So one of my tips also is just really focusing on getting enough rest and sleep, because our body needs that time to recover from those days' events, any kind of stress. And especially after a brain injury, we need to have that time to repair. So think about when you don't get enough sleep, how that feels. Like for me, I notice my memory is not as good. I'm not as focused. I just am so tired. I want to eat carbs. And I know in America, and I know this is true in other places too, we sometimes wear this badge, like, I'm so stressed and I'm so important, I only got 5 hours of sleep. And I don't know why we do this, but I have taken that badge off, or I'm trying to take that badge off, and just being like, you know what, I'm going to leave this party early because I respect my body and my brain, and I need to get, for me, it's about 8.5 hours of sleep a night. And for somebody else, it might be 6, or maybe it might be 9. And so a tip that I learned is just to go to bed 30 minutes earlier every night until you naturally wake up at the time that you need to wake up in the morning.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Yeah, that's a
what
good
feels
one.
best for your own unique body, because every body is different, right? So one person might be doing it one way and somebody else might be doing something else. And if you need caffeine in the morning, that means that you probably are sleep deprived, because we don't need to have caffeine.
No, I don't. I think I kind of give that up quite a while back. It's just I'd rather have moringa in the morning. What you're saying about sleep as well. There's a wonderful functional medicinal doctor we have in this country, Dr. Graham Downing, and he taught me an awful lot from his kind of talks and things. And he would functional medicine gets to the cause, the root, kind of deals with it. And so he was saying that, well, there's an old saying that I think his mum or his grandma used to say that an hour before midnight is worth 2 after. So he said that basically your body only really does its proper reparative, reparative kind of work between the hours of 9 p.m. and midnight. After that, it doesn't really do any much better. So you're saying if you can go to sleep a bit earlier and have sleep from 8, 9 till 2, 3 in the morning, then your body will get healing wise will get a lot more benefit from it. And that does make a lot of sense. In terms of sleep as well, well, as humans we were never meant to sleep 8 hours at night. That's not natural, and many kind of scientists agree with this, although we would have, in our ancestors would have slept maybe twice through the day and night, 2 separate periods, not necessarily 8 hours each time, but kind of 3 or 4 hours, and and then another 3 or 4 hours. If you go over to Europe here, you get go to places like Spain and Portugal, things shut in the afternoon. Well, mainly because it's too hot, but they close for siesta or whatever for 2 or 3 hours, and they have a nap and then go back, and then at night they're kind of wide awake and then go to bed later, get up the next day and do it again.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. With our circadian rhythms, our bodies, most of us dip down at about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then again at about 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So we naturally have those times, and and I actually have a whole workshop just on secrets to sleep, but I think one of the most important things is writing up a routine, because it's really how we treat our bodies when we are awake is just as important as how we treat them when we sleep. And we really need to have that solid night's sleep so that the next day we can perform the best we can. So we have to set the stage by making smart choices about how we end the day, how we prepare for bed, so that we can guide ourselves to sleep. And our body gets confused sometimes with the electronics and the blue light. So having that blue light filter on, don't use electronics 30 minutes before bed, journaling, thinking about positive things before bed, gratitude. There's so many things that we can do, but really the most important thing is being on a routine and trying to do the same thing almost every night.
Yes, coming back to that, what you said about screens, like retina screens, retina display screens, like mobile phones, iPads, computers, and so on. Somebody was telling me about this recently. Like, if you're just about to go to bed, or if you're in bed, you pick your phone up or your iPad or whatever. The second that retina screen kind of brightness goes on, it has a boosting effect on your brain to wake it up.
Absolutely.
So if you're in bed and you're checking your phone, if you're in bed and you're checking your phone, that is having that kind of LED display, that whatever they call it, is having an instantaneous effect on your brain to go, wake up, wake up, wake up. So if you're thinking about having those kind of things in and around your bed or your bedroom and getting to a good night's sleep, then think twice. Another thing which I found as well, which I got a couple of months ago, was an earthing blanket. From there. And I was like, I'd heard about this. Like, it popped up somewhere on like, an advert on Instagram or somewhere, and I was like, what on earth is that? And then I was like, well, there's a company here locally in the north of England that makes these. And I was like, what's this like? It's fairly bit expensive, but it's got a plug on it and a lead, and you plug it into the socket. You don't switch the socket on. And the earthing blanket is like a half blanket that goes over your bed, and it's full, like 5% of it is pure silver filament. And the idea is to earth EMF frequencies, UHF, all the kind of Wi-Fi, all the horrible kind of electromagnetic smog that your body picks up from being around phones and computers all day long and kind of being in the midst of Wi-Fi signals and everything else. And as you sleep at night, as your skin contacts with the blanket, the negative electrical charge is carried away through the blanket, out the wire, into your plug socket. And as we know, with your electrics, your electrics goes outside the earth port, goes into the ground. It's grounded outside. That we have I think you have 2-pin plugs over there. We have 3-pin plugs. The third pin is like a static or like kind of dormant earth, so that if there's a problem, that will earth anything and stop it blowing up. So the earth goes into the ground outside. So as you sleep at night, all this negative energy, kind of electromagnetic energy, is drawn outside. And I was like, yeah, this sounds a bit far-fetched to be true. And I was like, well, okay. And I managed to get one at a cheaper price, and I started using it. And it takes a few weeks, but oh my God, what a difference it's made. It's just really, really bizarre. And I think I paid about £70 for it, which is probably about $95 or whatever over there. But it was like, I'm a massive skeptic over stuff, Lori, and I'm like, yeah, if I won't just be a critical, negative skeptic. I'll be like, well, I want to try it and see if it works. If I can prove to myself that it works on a fine evidence, then I'll do it. I'm not just like a naysayer, like, oh, that's rubbish, that's nonsense.
And I'm the same way. I think, we have to say, first of all, something might work for you, might not work for somebody else. But when we hear somebody that we know it actually works for, then we're more like the rose-colored tints and with the prism. And so I've been very sensitive to light, and a lot of people with brain injuries have that same issue that we're just a little bit more sensitive to it. And so as much as you can keep the dimmer on your TV, on your computer, the blue light filters on, to reduce that.
That's good advice.
Brightness to your brain.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So what else do we need to talk about here as well?
Another tip would just be exercising the brain, mental stimulation, and just like listening to this podcast, this is one of your brain exercises, right?
Yeah,
You're taking
definitely.
notes, you're being active. And also, I hope you all feel grateful for being here today, that you're taking an active role in your healing. But the thing is the less we use our brain, the more deterioration we have of the brain. So when I went back to school at the Institute of Integrated Nutrition, I was thinking, I'm so scared, this isn't going to work at first. And then, the more I used it, the better it just kept getting. So we want to have these mental brain workouts to keep the mind active, with also listening to your brain. If you are right away on a concussion, you may need to relax the brain more. So see where you are in that, but it's, crossword puzzles, reading, maybe taking, more wellness classes like this. My girls were in grade school when this first happened, and so I would always try to we would make a copy of their Sudokus, their Ken-Kens, their math, and we would sit down on the table and we would do the math together. And so it was easy enough that I could do it, but it was also, I was being active in it because I had a really hard time focusing on numbers after the accident. So what can you do to improve your brain power? And it's just like, like if we just lift weights like on our arms one time, we're not going to get strong, right? It's something we have to do a little bit every day. So what is something that works best for you to help improve your brain? And I think, David, you and I are very similar in that we are very curious about lots of different ways of healing. So I am a lifelong learner. I'm constantly reading the latest research and different things like that. And I think it's helpful to be informed about as much as we can about our own health, so that we can make the best decisions that's best for us.
Definitely. It's always better to have way too much information that you can sort through rather than to have too little and be uninformed. And unfortunately, that's a way that kind of like if you do pay too much attention to media and even sometimes social media, then you can get stuck in that. Well, I say don't let other people do your thinking for you.
Yes.
And that is one of the biggest kind of crimes in this day and age, is saying, well, actually, I don't need to think about this, or I don't need to think about that because somebody's already made an opinion for me.
Yeah.
And that's at the moment, that I feel that's getting really dangerous for us as a species, where we're kind of allowing other people whom we don't necessarily even know who they are to make all our opinions for us.
Yeah. Society really tells us who we should be, and I realized in the last couple of years that society does not know what's best for me.
No, only you know.
And only we know, and so that is a lot of times, like I said, fitting out, that we might be seen as, that's different, that's weird, but I think about how happy I am and how I am living this really great life now. And a lot of it is because I'm choosing not to live the way society and what a lot of people have in their back pockets of what they feel is best. So just to recap, because we're about halfway through, one tip was, eating right for your brain. Number 2 was regular exercise. Meditation was 3. 4 is quality sleep. The 5th one was mental stimulation, those brain exercises. And so then coming on to just having, the next one is just having an active social life. And I know this was really difficult for me after my injuries, because I really, and I still have an issue with hearing more than one voice at a time. So going to a restaurant and different things like that, I absolutely can do that now. But when it's a really loud place, I limit those times. And so what I found helpful to me is just inviting one friend over at a time, instead of having a group of people. And that really helped me to have deeper conversations and not so much on the surface. So thinking about...
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah, maybe you can volunteer. Maybe you can join a little club if you want to meet new people. But the best way to get healthy is really find the healthiest person around you. Just
definitely.
Be around them more.
Yeah, and don't look for the ones that aren't healthy that are going to take you into things that don't serve your better purpose.
Yeah, habits are contagious. So I am getting married. I'm engaged right now, and my fiance
Excellent.
is definitely healthier than I am. And I really
Bless
was
him.
looking for that in somebody that
Good man.
I wanted to be with somebody that was even healthier than me, that we can
You can
inspire each other, and
inspire.
something that
Yeah,
be
yeah.
intentional about, that we're not going to take health for granted, that we'll always be putting
Yeah,
intention towards being the best that we can be.
yeah.
Um,
Important.
but yeah, and also, a good, like, just laughing. It doesn't just lighten the load
Laughter.
mentally. It
Laughter's
actually
great.
it lowers our cortisol, so the body's stress hormones, and it
Laughter's
boosts
fantastic.
brain
Yeah.
chemicals, like the
Yeah.
endorphins, which helps our mood. And
Oh yeah.
and I know for me, in my first couple of years, I was really up and down in my mood. I was yelling, really a lot of stress, not not being the person who I really thought I should be. And so just having those times where you can just laugh and smile and do something fun every day. When I come up with my schedule, I come up with my schedule the night before, so I can really look at the next day, so it's healthy for me and get as much done as I can.
Yeah.
I always try to think about one fun thing. What's one fun thing? And it might just be a 5-minute dance session with my teenagers in the living room,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's something that we can just laugh and smile and enjoy yourself or enjoy the people in your life.
Yeah, very important point. And I spoke about this recently as well. The vagus nerve, what you would, and
Yes.
that's stimulated by laughter, singing, music, dance. It's kind of like stimulated by being around people. So that's a major part. And as we explained before, it starts obviously through the neck and goes down through your heart, into your microbiome, your gut as well. So it contacts all four brains in the body. So it's essential to stimulate that nerve as well. And laughter is, that's
Yeah,
the best way.
yeah, and a lot of
You
times
know?
we just don't put focus on, like, sometimes scheduling that. Like,
Yeah, I have to
we
make
just
it ridiculous. Yeah.
all of a sudden we're like,
Life's
oh,
ridiculous.
it's been a couple of days. I haven't talked to anyone. I haven't laughed. And it's like, okay, well, what can you do? Maybe you just have your own dance party. Maybe you go to a yoga class with a teacher that's really inspiring and makes you smile. So we can do some things that are ourselves.
Yeah.
And even just like if you watch a comedy show, maybe that would
Oh,
be
yeah.
something
Yeah, of
um,
course.
to just lighten the load. We tend to
Yeah.
take life really seriously, and I know
Yeah, but
I
we
have
shouldn't. No.
absolutely done this.
No, no.
And sometimes we just have to kind of take a step back and go, it's not that big of a deal. It's
No, it's not. And if you can't learn how to laugh at life and at yourself and at the ridiculousness of the situation that's going on, then you really are stuck. But yeah, it doesn't matter. Sometimes it could be anything that people consider inappropriate or whatever. But if it makes you laugh, if it makes you kind of like kind of burst out of that little bubble that you're stuck in,
yeah,
then just do it. As long as there's no one else that's going to get too offended. But yeah, just
yeah,
do it. Just go with that, because I do the same. Some days it's like, yeah, I just need something to make me laugh, and I'll find,
yeah,
something, because we have some, kind of like very intense comedians over here and stuff, and I'll listen to that, and I'll be like, well, yeah, it may be inappropriate, it may be like kind of, vulgar, whatever, but it's funny, and it's not offensive, but if you can find some way just to stimulate that nerve as well. And we talked yesterday about daith piercing and kind of electrical stimulation of the vagus nerve. But yeah, laughter and dancing and all that's the best way, in my
yeah,
opinion.
absolutely. And I know for my own self, and I've heard this from other people with brain injuries, that I got a little more serious than what I used to be. My personality changed in
Yeah,
that way, that I
yeah, it
used to be
does.
more of
It does, yeah.
just a goofball. And now I'm coming back to that again. I'm coming back towards
Yeah, that's good.
that. And it's been, 7 years. So be patient, that if you do feel that you're more serious, plan this laughter, plan this, because it will come back. And we just have to remind our brain
Yeah,
what
yeah,
it feels like to be happy again.
yeah, true.
And one thing I like to just say too is, I just choose to be happy. I choose to be happy because it's good for my health. And that's an affirmation I say almost every day, is that I
Yeah,
choose to be happy. So another tip, number 7, is healthy weight. And So there is a direct correlation now between our body mass index, our BMI, and the size, that memory function of our hippocampus. So as a little laugh, like in this case, size really does matter. So,
No.
but so research does state though, unfortunately, as the weight goes up, the physical size of our brain goes down. And Dr. Daniel Amen coins this as the dinosaur syndrome. And so it's important for us to eat those healthy foods. And when I first started to just eat the brain healthy foods, it's amazing. Weight just fell off because all of a sudden I wasn't eating all that junk food.
Yeah.
So when you're eating a brain healthy way, you're also eating just a healthy way. And when you're getting that exercise in every day to help heal your brain, you're also helping your weight. When you're doing your, laughter with people, and when you're getting good sleep and exercising the brain and meditation, those are all things that lower the stress hormone cortisol, which keeps the fat on us. So that helps us to lose the weight. So there's a lot of different things that we can do so we can heal and increase the brain size by lowering our weight. And it doesn't mean that you have to be like this skinny person. It's just that we want to have it so that we're not overweight.
It could be leaner.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so when I work with my clients that I work with individually, a lot of times, they ask for weight loss, but there's tends to be like pain in their body or anxiety, depression. That's like the main thing. And so it just is like, the losing weight just is like, it's a really nice side effect. When you live this brain healthy way, you just become healthier on the outside as well, which makes us feel a little bit more positive as well. Number 8 is stress management, and I think it's again the way we look at things. If we change the way we look at things, our perception changes. And then things really do change, right? Because we can't always control what's happening outside. There's going to be deaths in the family. We can't control that we had these accidents already, but we can change that inner world so we can experience our outer world differently. So it's really important that we support our mood and a relaxation and avoid stress. And so what's happening today is that, a little stress is okay, but because we go so much into that fight and flight, that there's a tiger chasing us, but there's not really a tiger. It's just that we're running late. Oh, we're late to this, or, oh my goodness, what am I going to have for dinner? And oh my gosh, my kids are doing this. When we have that all day, this little stress, that is just pumping in that cortisol all day long. And so it's becoming overwhelming. That decreases our immunity, so we're getting sick more. And again, it puts that fat in our belly, but it kills the cells in our memory center. So think about a time like when somebody has passed away and how you can't remember things during that time. My mom passed away on Easter, and someone said something about somebody that came to the funeral, and I go, really? They were there? And I thought, oh, yes, I was just overcome with grief because it was a sudden death. And so when we have that stress, it's going to make our memory worse. And we already have a tough time with post concussion syndrome and any kind of injury. So we need to be focused on lowering that. And I think, so many people that go to the doctor, they're saying about 80%, maybe even 90% of the time, the reason why they're actually going to the doctor is because of stress. It's stomach aches, it's headaches, it's trouble sleeping, it's all these things that have to do to the core concept. So I have a whole workshop that's just about how to bust stress and everything that we need to do so we can really support that mood and that relax.
That sounds really good,
Yeah. And so number 9 tip is just to think positive. I really felt negative at first and just kept thinking, I can't do this. And most people's brains are about 80% negative. I think that
True.
after brain injury, we may be more than that. I know I was. So we have to give these
81%.
positive messages to ourselves, really doubt these negative thoughts, doubt the doubts. So think about, instead of saying I can't do it, to say things like, yeah, I can do it. Just have patience. It's going to be okay. And so a lot of times I used to think like health is just about what we eat then, but no, it's also about what we think, what we say.
Yes.
And truly, once we replace these negative thoughts with positive ones, we start to have positive results. Focusing on gratitude, there is such a healing power of gratitude, that it reduces the stress hormone by 23% when we focus on gratitude. So every morning, think about something you're grateful for. In our family, we do our prayer at our meal, and then we go around the table and everybody talks about something they're grateful for that happened at school or at work that day. And then before bed, I like to have my daughters, tell me 3 things that they're really grateful for that happened that day. And so what's happening is that when you have to say 3 new things every single night, you really have to think about the little things that happen.
Yeah.
And so my daughter recently just said, I smiled at this girl. I couldn't remember her name, but I smiled at her and she smiled back at me. And that made me feel good. And so just really pointing out all these little miracles that may happen throughout the day that we don't always notice. Yeah. So I thought too, when I first heard about affirmations, I loved Louise Hay, Hay.
Oh yeah, Louise Hay. Yeah.
When I learned about that, I thought it was really hokey. Like, oh, I'm going to be saying I choose to be happy. I eat foods that are nourishing for my health. All these affirmations. But then I did them, and I do them with almost every client of mine. And it truly does work, that we are retraining the brain, that all of a sudden we believe in what we are saying.
Yes, importantly as well. And Louise Hay and Hay House Publications have been a massive kind of help to any type of spiritual writers and things in the past few decades as well. And it's worthwhile giving a mention to Dr. Wayne Dyer. He's gone now as well. But he said, when you change the things you look at, the things you look at change.
Absolutely.
And his wisdom, it was like an elder. He was like a beautiful elder, and he was just like, well, yeah. And Louise Hay too, both of them, just like 2 dear souls. And,
I have to say, those 2 people are probably 2 that influenced me the most in how I think, and changing the way I can think about things, and really looking at that. I've had so many traumatic things happen in the last few years. That I should be having this pity party, but instead I look and I think I am so grateful for everything I have. And so it's an important step in healing, to truly look at the way we think. And with my clients, I would say the thing that every single one of my clients has in common, no matter what their illness is, it's mindset, that they don't actually love themselves. And so how to relate to yourself as your own best friend. And if you say something that's mean, like, oh, of course you failed at that, you always fail, would you actually say that to your best friend? No.
No, don't say it to yourself, no.
Yeah, and we're with ourselves the longest, so we better like and love ourselves. Yeah. And I think in Minnesota especially, we try not to brag about anything, and we're very humble people.
Oh, that's good.
And so it's like, well, we still need to love who we are and be kind and gentle and have self-compassion for ourselves, and don't be so hard on us.
Well,
we are human.
That's like the way of the Tao.
That are imperfect people.
Yeah, that's like the way of the Tao. That's what they taught when Dai taught as well. Another beautiful teacher of his, isn't it? Well, English from here, was Stuart Wilde too, and he taught the same things in a different way. And he was very funny. You listen to him; he was almost like listening to stand-up sometimes. He was fantastic, but he really challenged people. So between these kind of like renegade spirits that would challenge you to like the way the Tao would be like the kind of the way of softness, and kind of like the way of not being confrontational, but being kind of working on yourself first of all, and then getting yourself right.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's many wonderful viewpoints there. Fantastic. Right.
Yeah,
So
we could talk about just our thoughts for about 2 hours, I think. For those of you that are just, having acute issues with their brain injury, I would say Dr. Wayne Dyer is a really easy one to listen to. He has some audiobooks. That some are more medical research, and he's just very gentle in the way he speaks.
He's
wonderful. A nice one to start off with.
He's wonderful, and I just remember there's one in particular on YouTube. It's only about 8-9 minutes, and it's like 5 things, and he starts off in the most wonderful way, and just like 5 things that you should do in life, and there's just it was really powerful, and he talks about never being offended by anything. There's no reason ever to be offended by anything. So people go around looking for reasons to be offended, but all day long you could find 100 reasons. If somebody says something that you think offends you, just say, well, that's really interesting opinion. I've never even considered that before. And so on, and just diffuse it. Don't get into a fight. And it's particularly important in if you've had a brain injury, is because you will find people that will try and pick holes in, and they will try and, like I did, they will try and kind of like challenge, oh, are you really ill? I can't see anything wrong with you. You don't look ill to me. So you will get this criticism. You will get people that don't understand, that don't want to understand, will attack you or criticize you, and you just say, well, that's really interesting. Thank you. Never even considered it.
Yes, absolutely.
Diffuse it.
It's so true. And the book, The 4 Agreements, like what the first agreement is, don't take anything personally. And that one was a challenge for me. And it is true that, when someone says something that may be offensive to you, it really has nothing to do with you.
No, nothing at all.
With them. And maybe that's the most that they know for the knowledge that they have in their life at that time, that they're doing the best that they can. And that they probably don't even know that they're offending you at that time.
No,
and so
they're all living their own dream.
Yeah,
wonderful book. Yeah.
And the last tip here, number 10, is just to have support. Just think about how you live your life right now, and I always like to think about 2 different roads. Hold out your hands, and one road goes to the left, and one road goes to the right. And if you don't make any changes in your life, right? If you go to stay to the left, maybe you're not making any changes. This is how you're going to keep living. How do you feel about that in 1 year, 5 years, 20 years from now? Are you okay with that? Can you accept that? Or maybe you put some of these changes in your life. You start to meditate. You start to practice yoga. You really focus on your positive thinking. And then think about that. Your life could go in a completely different direction, maybe a more beautiful direction. So think about what that would be like in 6 months, a year, 20 years from now, when you focus on your health and what you want.
Yeah, because what you focus on.
When you have these changes, when you add things to your life, and you're like, why are you doing these crossword puzzles? Why are you going to sleep earlier? You need to tell your friends, you need to tell your family about all these intentions towards your better brain health for added support, or contact a health coach to encourage and to guide you on your goals. But there's so many things that it is hard. It's hard to change your habits, but we've all done hard things, so we can do this. But when we have other people supporting us, it makes it easier, because the road to good health is not like just walking up a mountain. No, it's more like a roller coaster that we do come down at times. But when we go down, those are times that we tend to really learn a lot of good lessons, when we have those failures and mistakes. And that's necessary. For sure. It's necessary to fail. Yeah. And then we come back up even higher, right? Yeah. And so but when we dip down, that's when we really need the support of other people in our life to help us to go back up, to keep going, so we don't continue to go down.
Yeah, very important.
But I would encourage everybody that's listening just to think about what would work best for you? Is it changing your food? Is it meditation? Is it, really concentrating on your quality sleep, your brain exercises, your body exercises, getting together with friends for an active social life, getting your weight to be healthy, managing your stress, thinking positive, getting support. What are those tips that resonate, really speak to you first? What would be the easiest thing, that low-hanging fruit? And write that down, and then think about what would be the next things, and write those down. Because maybe you start with that first one, and then in a week you start the next things. Maybe you could get with some friends and say, do you want to do this with me? And have a group of people that you can go through together. So there's so many great things that we have within our own control that we can help our brain. We just know that this memory loss, this cognitive decline, it's not something that's automatic after a brain injury or as we age, that we can supercharge our brain. And it's by living this brain healthy lifestyle, by focusing on what we put into our bodies. So just remember, it's never too late, it's never too early to start.
No, it's never.
That today is the day, not tomorrow, but today is the day that we can really make a difference.
Fantastic. So you've got you've really worked this wonderful way. You've gone through all the steps of it with us about how people can make a start to make a positive change in their lives, and that is a truly tremendous thing. So it's always great to hear somebody who's managed to kind of like calcify things and put things in order as well. So thank you so much for that, Lori. That's absolutely inspirational, just a wonderful thing to hear. And I hope that anybody listening to this is gonna start to think differently now. Because the more we have these conversations, the more we have these discussions between us, then it's different to just kind of writing on the wall at Facebook or on Twitter or wherever. There's a lot of context. You can sit for 20 minutes and write a post on Facebook, and people will answer to it, but you may always get some kind of level of misunderstanding or whatever, and it might take like days for it to play out. But when you have a conversation like this as well, and people are listening too, it's like, hang on a minute, there's a different kind of energy that's carried in somebody's voice, in what they say, and what you've delivered as well has been fantastic. And so that has a different energy, and that energy carries on.
Absolutely. And you and I are proof that you can heal from a brain injury. And I do have to be intentional about the way I live my life, and I do every single tip. I don't just preach it, I practice it. And I truly hope that some of the listeners are going to put these simple practices into play, and maybe you post about them and encourage others to join you. But
Absolutely.
There is a way to create a life that you have always imagined, and maybe it's not even what you imagined, but it's even better than what you could ever imagine.
It's definitely going to be different to what the world expects from you as well, because we said this yesterday that maybe after you've had an injury or severe brain injury, you're not going to be necessarily looking at being rich or successful or famous or kind of like in any kind of way, whatever. That doesn't matter as much. It's about it's going back to what you enjoy to do, whether that be art, music, health, everything, or combination of things, or whatever it is. It's whatever gets you going. It's whatever makes you feel empowered as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that everything in our life happens for us. And so the fact that I had a second accident the day before I was going back to work really spoke to me that, oh my goodness, I'm literally getting hit on the head again. This isn't my purpose. I shouldn't go back to that job, which I really loved. It was a wonderful job. But that sometimes when we have something like an injury, it sets us in our track to go, okay, what did I always enjoy in my life? What is my purpose? And for me, I thought like I would be living a life of poverty, being a health coach, and I was like, that's okay. This is my role. I'm going to live a certain way so I can help other people. But what happens is that when you live your purpose, abundance just follows. The universe conspires to help you.
Right. Yeah, you got to get to that.
And so I now do corporate workshops, and I speak at bigger venues all over. And it's just wonderful to know that I can impact people all over the world with my messages. And now I work with health coaches all over the world and teaching them how to give workshops so that they can help spread the word of good health. So sometimes, you think, it's different than what you've ever thought, right? It's not what you ever expected, but like you said, going back to, is it art? What is it that that really sets your soul on fire? And do that, and that it's going to be nourishing for your soul. But it's something that we can do. I knew I couldn't go back to my old job. That'd be too much time on the computer, too much stress, that I needed to create my own business, which has its own unique stress, right? But that's something that I can decide that I'm going to go to yoga during the day. I'm going to go have a walk during the day and then work in the between. So you can create something that works just right for you.
Yeah, very good words to end with as well. So, right, that's absolutely fantastic. And there's a lot for people to think about there from this podcast as well. And are we going to come back and do another one?
Right,
okay, well, we'll do that very soon, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right, so just before we go as well, to thank you personally for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, your information, and obviously information that's very deeply personal to you as well. This disability, this illness, this syndrome can take so much from us, but it's so easy to turn a blind eye through prejudice to what it can actually give in the sense of new opportunities. And I know we do sound a bit evangelical sometimes, railing about it, but it is actually, that's how the best people that I know have recovered and gone on to do good things in their lives have looked at it. Is that, the belief and positivity that, no matter what's happened, that may have crushed some people, is there to serve a purpose to let you get on to do better things.
Absolutely.
So that's wonderful. So thank you for joining us for this first podcast, Lori.
Yes,
and we really look forward
to David, for everything you do.
I don't do anything.
Your role in my life really changed the path, because you were the first place that I went for support, and I really am just grateful to you and everybody that I met on that Post Concussion Facebook group. So thank you so much.
Yeah, there's so many good people there. I mean, Gina's just absolutely amazing. She's always like 13 hours ahead of me, so it's difficult sometimes, like keeping a conversation going and that. But there's Teresa as well, Alison, and Alison, and there's Scott and others. So they're just like, they're all part of it, and although I don't think any of us in the group have ever actually physically met, but I've known these people for most of them for like the best part of 10 years, and it's so bizarre because we do have kind of like a admin, we talk and we connect and communicate, but we've never been to each other's houses. We have families. We don't have that kind of. Maybe in future, I don't know. But the ideal was always to create a network of people worldwide on whatever level. And and we're not funded. We've never been funded. It's just, and we've never been commercial. So it's just like, we'll just do it because people need what's to be done, and it doesn't cost a lot to run. But it's like, I'll keep doing it anyway. And we'll keep that commercial aspect out of it, because it's just not helpful, because there's always, if you're going to introduce that into a cause, then there's always a trade-off, and that trade-off will generally mean that you have to adopt somebody else's views or somebody else's message, or you have to kind of sell yourself somehow. And so we've done well to keep it kind of independent for so long. In fact, I've no idea how we've done it, but it's a pleasure. So, right, smashing. So, thank you very much for joining us, Lori.
Thank you.
So there we go, folks. that's part one of a chat with Lori. We'll be back soon to speak to her very soon. I just want to thank you as well for a couple of other messages that have come in. One very very kind of pleased and kind of like grateful for the interviews and things that people have given. So yeah, that's people appreciate the time that people are giving to tell the stories, which is really fantastic. There's another message which has come through on Twitter. I was saying, can we please have some more information about Post Concussion Syndrome and grief and kind of like the things and that we just touched on in the last podcast. So yeah, we'll definitely talk more about that very soon later. Right, so thank you, for this episode. Thank you to Lori, most of all, and thank you for listening so much. I hope you've enjoyed that. Again, you can get in touch with us on Twitter. Our handle is @postconcussion. On Facebook, you can look for us at Post Concussion Syndrome Awareness Worldwide. In the groups, there's a few of them, and you can contact me, David Bottomley, direct. And you can find us on WordPress at www.postconcussionsyndromeawarenessuk.wordpress.com. Yeah, I got it right that time. So thank you, and I will speak to you again very soon. Goodbye.